Hey everyone, today I want to go over the biggest mistake that I see new ICT traders make. And this isn't just some clickbait title. I've had this conversation with literally dozens of people in my DMs who were struggling to find why certain setups were failing and certain setups were working. And if you're watching this and you're not familiar with ICT, I'm going to be speaking specifically about his 2022 mentorship playlist, which I highly recommend checking out. It's about 40 episodes or so, and it's what made me start learning ICT concepts and really change the way that I look at price action. Now, for a quick overview of the core factors that are required for the 2022 model, the first is that you want to see a sweep of liquidity, essentially meaning you want to take out an old high or an old low. Then after taking liquidity, you want to see a market structure shift with some displacement, and you want that displacement to contain some fair value gap that can be used for entry, preferably at premium if you're shorting or discount if you're going long. So I have one example right here, and if we zoom out to a 4-hour chart, you can see I'm marking out this old high right here. And so I'm looking at this instance right here where we just barely traded above it. So this is the high that we marked out, and we can see we cleared that level and then had a market structure shift back under this swing low with some displacement, some energy behind this move. We had a fair value gap right here, price retraced into it, and with all those factors lining up, that was an opportunity to short, targeting some sell side liquidity levels, which could have been right here, overnight lows. But now for another example, let's look here at these relative equal highs. So we could say that these relative equal highs would signify buy side liquidity. And if we zoom in to where price took out this level, we can see that when we finally got past this level, we had a nice push up. And now this is where even I started to get confused when I first started, because my thinking was that, okay, we swept liquidity. Now we just need to wait for an MSS with a fair value gap, and we can essentially just look to get short. And this is where displacement can help keep you out of bad trades. So for example, after taking those relative equal highs, we have a swing low formed right here on the 1-minute chart, and we have a fair value gap right here, but obviously this didn't work as a short. And when I was first starting out, I was basically looking for any and every opportunity to get short after we take a significant high, and vice versa for looking to go long after taking lows. And you could say there was no real significant displacement in that area, which I would agree, but even still, I would be confused and looking for areas to get short on this whole leg up, looking for some form of MSS and FVG combination to get short. But the key thing that I was missing is that not only did we have to sweep liquidity and create an MSS with displacement, but we needed to have that market structure shift back through the original liquidity level. And if you go through ICT's mentorship, you can hear him talking about this in many episodes, but it's one that I find often gets overlooked. And not just with myself, I know other people have had similar issues trying to short strong uptrend days and vice versa with downtrends, simply because they think that once we take a significant liquidity level, once we have an MSS and FVG, that's your signal to get in. But the thing that gets overlooked is that you want price to trade back through the liquidity level to indicate a failure swing that could end up reversing and coming back into the range. So if we look at this original example again, we can make a little more sense of why it worked, being that we took liquidity, had a market structure shift with displacement through this old swing low, and price came back through that original liquidity level, indicating that failure to push above those old highs. So now with MSS and displacement and that fair value gap, price comes back to a premium and is a viable candidate for a short entry. So now going back to the failed example where we ran past relative equal highs, this rule basically tells you that as long as price is above buy side liquidity, we are not looking for shorts in this area. In order to look for shorts, we want to see MSS back below the original liquidity level. So if we know that shorts aren't an option here, what else could we look for? And if we zoom back out, we can see that these highs are pretty significant and could be our draw on liquidity. So with that in mind, we could look for potential long plays to reach this level of liquidity. And you can do that in various ways. For example, you have this order block right here, and you have a small fair value gap right in that area. Price trades back into discount of this small price leg into that order block and away from it, which could be a potential long entry. But once I went back and watched ICT's videos and realized that this was also part of the equation, it helped me eliminate so many bad trades and basically stop fighting the trend on days where it was very clearly defined. And obviously it's a very simple rule, but it's a very important piece of the puzzle if you are trying to implement the 2022 mentorship model. And one last example here, this time I want to be looking at the short side. So I'm defining these lows as sell side liquidity. If I go into a 5-minute chart, I can see that these lows were taken out pretty aggressively. And after this market structure shift where price closed above these swing highs, we did actually have some pretty decent displacement right here that left a fair value gap. But the reason this shouldn't be considered for a long entry is because we are still below sell side liquidity. So if price did something more like this, create a swing high, MSS above, and then back down to a fair value gap, that would have been more of an ideal setup. But since it failed to come back within that range, it's essentially just support turn resistance at this point, or a higher time frame mitigation block, meaning those who were long around these levels, their trades are now underwater once price breaks these lows. So with price coming back to that original level, it gives them an opportunity to exit at nearly break even. Again, it's a very simple rule, but one that's very crucial to this whole model. If you don't understand why you're losing trades and you haven't been implementing this piece of knowledge, I highly recommend reviewing your old trades, both winners and losers, to see how often this element was present and how it played a role in both your winning and losing trades. Like I said, this really helped me stop fighting the trend on certain days and just helped me create a better expectation of what the market should do if we were to look for a key reversal. But I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.